Good afternoon. I'm Donald Duncan. I'm Director of Liturgy and Music here at Christ Church in Greenville, South Carolina. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to our historic Markley Chapel today for this Mondays from Markley presentation. Today, I want to share with you sort of the world's shortest book report on 3 books that are or should be important in the lives of all Anglicans and Episcopalians. Can anyone guess what the first book is? I really hope you get this right. This is the Bible, and it should be, and hopefully is for all of us, sort of the bedrock of our faith. As Anglicans like to say, the scriptures of the Old and New Testament contain everything necessary to our life and salvation. So this is the bedrock for the other 2 books that we're going to talk about. We know that the Bible contains within it sort of the history of God's saving acts and God's movement of love towards us as God's people. So this is the book upon which the other 2 books that we're going to talk about today, or I'm going to give you a quick book report on, are based. First, the Book of Common Prayer. The prayer book, as our rector likes to say, is primarily a good bit of scripture arranged liturgically for our use. So if you look at where a lot of the words in the prayer book originate, they're either directly from scripture or references to scripture. The other book I want to talk to you about is the hymnal, our official hymnal 1982 of the Episcopal Church. You may think that that is only a book for Sunday mornings, or maybe if you're having a random hymn sing around the piano at home with some family members, if you do that sort of thing. I'm a church nerd, so I do, but maybe not everyone does. But that book is not just for Sunday morning, and neither is the prayer book. And so today, I just want to point out a few resources that I found helpful to me personally, and I hope they're helpful to you. And then I want to talk very briefly about how we might look at our hymnal a little differently than we might look at it on Sunday morning. So first, the prayer book. And if you're watching this and have access to the prayer book, that would be great. If not, maybe you can rewatch it later and make note of some of these page numbers. First of all, one thing you'll notice about this prayer book, I picked it up from one of the pews in the chapel. And if you look real closely, I don't know if you can see this, but you can tell exactly which pages of this prayer book have been used because they are darkened and they look different than the other pages. We're going to explore pages that are not Rite 1 or Rite 2 Eucharist today. So from about 323 to 365, 366 in the prayer book, those are the pages that are most used in church on Sunday, Rite 1 Eucharist, Rite 2 Eucharist. If you look on page 37 in the Book of Common Prayer, after the contents and the calendar, we have the daily offices, and they're arranged morning prayer, Rite 1, evening prayer, Rite 1, morning prayer, Rite 2, evening prayer, Rite 2, and then some of the other offices for the day. Noonday prayer, which we've said many times together from this venue, a short order for evening, and Compline being late night prayer. What's really helpful to point out, I think, about these offices is that they are not just intended for the clergy to say, they are not just intended for corporate gathered worship of the community. These are sets of prayers with a long history in the church, and especially in Anglicanism, that are for the laity as well. And any one person or any family group can use these offices, and they are laid out in ways that they can be led by lay people very easily. So take note of those. And then if you turn to page 137 in the prayer book, these pages often get overlooked. And it's a wonderful resource in the prayer book. It's called Daily Devotions for Individuals and Families. And it's a short outline, sort of a, if you condensed the daily offices, the full rite, it's sort of a condensation of that. It gives you sort of an annotated version of that that's really useful for private devotions, for private prayer, or for saying around the dinner table. And they're simple and straightforward and would work well with families with children, both reading ages or not yet reading ages. If you look at page 383, that's where the form of the prayers of the people begin. And they're intended to be used within the context of the Eucharist. And at Christ Church, we use throughout the year all the different forms of the prayers of the people, seasonally and for special occasions. But they're really wonderful outlines for prayer. So if you can't quite find the right words to say and want to engage in intercessory prayer, it's a wonderful outline for that. So I would encourage you to look through those prayers with an eye towards how this would help you individually in your life of devotion outside of corporate worship. Same thing on page 458. There's a rite for the ministration to the sick. There are prayers for the sick. And if you look on 458 and 459, there are prayers for a sick person, for recovery from sickness, for a sick child, a prayer of confidence before an operation for strength. Those are really wonderful prayers and are often overlooked if you're not really looking for them. On page 585 begins the Psalter, and that's the book of Psalms, all 150 Psalms, same book of Psalms you would find in the Bible. The translation in the prayer book is different than other translations you'll find in the scriptures, but it's a wonderful translation for accuracy and faithfulness to the original text. And the Psalms can be a wonderful way to initiate moments of prayer in our personal lives. On page 810, if you haven't noticed this section, it's not one that we go to very often on Sunday morning, but there's a whole set of prayers and thanksgivings organized by occasion and need. And again, when you have those moments in your life when you can't find the right words to say but have a very specific need, look at page 810 in the prayer book and see if there's a prayer that fits that might be of some use and meaningful and helpful to you. The last thing I'll share from the prayer book, a little hidden gem, is the catechism that begins on page 845. And a catechism is just sort of a simple outline of the faith in question and answer form. And it can be a wonderful way to sort of acquaint yourselves with the way we approach the faith and sort of the big topics in the faith. Everything from, what are the scriptures, what's the difference in the Old and New Testament, the persons of the Trinity, the creeds, the ministry, how is the church organized. It's sort of brief descriptions of how we view those things. So I hope that maybe one or more of those resources in the prayer book would be of help to you. I said I would mention the hymnal and thinking of it outside of Sunday morning. And of course we use it to sing together, to sing corporately. But remember that all the texts that we sing, they start as poetry. And if the scriptures, this is the way I see it anyway, if the scriptures are the bedrock of our faith in the Bible, then the prayer book illuminates that for us. How we see God and how we worship God, how we approach God. The hymnal further illuminates both of those things. So if we say that we love God, our hymnody more fully expresses the ways in which we love God or the reasons why we love God. And so I would encourage you to look at some of these texts and just read them for their poetic beauty. I'm going to share a couple with you if it's not 10 after 1 yet. Is it 10 after 1?
It's 1:09.
Okay. Maybe I'll just share 2 with you rather than 3. We'll start with hymn 704. We're just going to look at the poetry. I'm not going to sing to you. O thou who camest from above, the fire celestial to impart, kindle a flame of sacred love upon the altar of my heart. There let it burn for thy glory, burn with ever bright, undying blaze, and trembling to its source return in humble prayer and fervent praise. Jesus, confirm my heart's desire to work and speak and think for thee. Still let me guard the holy fire, and still stir up the gift in me. Still let me prove thy perfect will, my acts of faith and love repeat, till death thy endless mercies seal, and make the sacrifice complete. The second one I'll share with you is found at hymn 647. 647. I know not where the road will lead, I follow day by day, or where it ends, I only know I walk the King's highway. I know not if the way is long, and no one else can say, but rough or smooth, uphill or down, I walk the King's highway. And some I love have reached the end, but some with me may stay. Their faith and hope still guiding me, I walk the King's highway. The way is truth, the way is love. For light and strength I pray. And through the years of life, to God I walk the King's highway. The countless hosts lead on before. I must not fear nor stray. With them, the pilgrims of the faith, I walk the King's highway. Through light and dark the road leads on, till dawns the endless day, when I shall know why in this life I walk the King's highway. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you'll think about our prayer book and our hymnal in maybe a slightly different way this week and discover some of the resources there. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon.